You've probably asked yourself more than once, if he's married, why does he act this way with me? He seems intelligent, controlled, even loyal. Yet something in his behavior doesn't add up. Carl Jung said that the unconscious always reveals itself in relationships, and married men are no exception. The truth is, even the smartest married men make silent mistakes with women. Mistakes they'll never admit, but you can clearly feel. A glance that lingers too long. A conversation that crosses invisible lines. A kind of emotional pull that confuses your heart while he pretends nothing is happening. These are not random accidents. They are hidden patterns born from unspoken fears and unconscious desires, and once you recognize them, you'll see every married man differently. In this video, you'll discover 8 things smart married men should never do with women, things they often do without realizing, but that can change everything for you. Ignoring emotional signals. When a married man steps into a woman's world, he often believes that logic and reason are his greatest tools. He thinks that if he says the right words, keeps the right posture, or hides his intentions well enough, everything will remain under control. But the truth is, women are not guided only by logic. They feel the invisible. They notice what is not being said, what is hidden between gestures, and the emotions that leak through the cracks of silence. This is where many smart married men make their first mistake: ignoring emotional signals. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious speaks through symbols, tone, and energy, not just words. When a man ignores the emotional signals he is sending, the quick glance, the subtle shift in body language, the way his voice changes when speaking to a woman, he underestimates the most powerful form of communication. And the woman, even without consciously analyzing it, picks up on every sign. She feels the contradiction between what he says and what he actually radiates. This mistake creates confusion. A woman senses one thing but hears another. He might say, "I'm happily married," while his eyes linger longer than they should. He might insist he values boundaries, yet the way he positions himself near her tells a different story. These small mismatches between words and emotional energy create tension. The woman begins to wonder, why do I feel this? Why is he acting like that? And this confusion can lead her into an emotional trap she never asked for. Ignoring emotional signals is dangerous because it blinds both sides. The man believes he is safe behind logic, but in reality, he is revealing more than he imagines. And the woman who notices these signals might start to interpret them as hidden truths, even when they are not fully conscious in him. This is how projection begins. She projects meaning into his gestures while he projects desire or emptiness he does not face at home. Jung called this the meeting of shadows, where two people mirror what they avoid within themselves. For a woman, recognizing this mistake is essential. When a married man ignores emotional signals, he leaves her carrying the weight of what is unsaid. She feels the tension, but he refuses to acknowledge it. Over time, this can distort her self-perception. She may think, maybe I'm imagining things, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Yet deep down she knows the truth. Emotional energy does not lie. The smarter the man believes he is, the greater this trap becomes. He convinces himself he can separate emotion from interaction, that he can manage how he comes across. But women sense what men try to suppress, and when he ignores those signals, he loses respect. He appears disconnected, insincere, or even manipulative. Trust begins to break. Not because of what he said, but because of what he refused to acknowledge. For women watching this, the lesson is not to carry his blind spots. His refusal to face his emotions should not become your burden. When you notice the mismatch between words and energy, step back. Ask yourself, am I responding to what he says or to what his unconscious is projecting? This clarity protects you from falling into his unspoken conflict. Carl Jung taught that true awareness begins when we bring the unconscious into light. A man who ignores his emotional signals lives in denial, and a woman who believes his words over his energy risks being drawn into that denial. The power is in seeing clearly, to understand that ignoring emotional signals is not strength. It is weakness disguised as control. Women must remember, if he pretends not to feel, if he dismisses the signals, that silence speaks louder than any promise. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. And here lies the silent danger. When emotional signals are ignored, they don't disappear, they only sink deeper into the unconscious, waiting to surface in more destructive ways. A woman must remember that she is not imagining these undercurrents. What she feels is real even if he denies it. His silence is not protection. It is avoidance. Carl Jung believed that the things we avoid eventually shape our destiny. For married men, ignoring emotions creates blind spots that will repeat again and again. For women, the true power is to notice these patterns early, to trust intuition and to step away from the confusion. Because the moment you learn to honor what you feel, you no longer fall for what he hides. Confusing attention with connection. There is a difference between a man giving attention and a man building a true connection. Yet many married men blur this line without even realizing it. For them, attention feels light, casual, almost meaningless. A compliment, a friendly smile, a short message at the right moment. They see these gestures as harmless. But for women, attention carries a weight that men often ignore. When it is repeated, it creates a pattern, and patterns awaken emotions. This is where the second mistake emerges, confusing attention with connection. Carl Jung taught that human beings are constantly searching for reflection. We all long to feel seen, valued, and recognized. A married man who offers a woman repeated attention is often acting from an unconscious need to feel alive again, to confirm his worth in a way his marriage no longer provides. He convinces himself that because he has not crossed a physical boundary, he is safe. But the truth is, every glance, every message, every unnecessary compliment becomes more than he admits. For the woman, these moments feel like the beginning of something deeper, even if he insists it is nothing. Attention is easy. It requires no responsibility, no risk, no sacrifice. It can be given quickly and taken back without effort. But connection is different. Connection demands truth, commitment, and honesty. Connection forces him to face what he feels and admit the consequences of his actions. When a man mixes the two, when he gives attention but denies connection, he creates confusion. The woman feels intimacy, but she cannot find stability. She senses warmth, but there is no ground to stand on. This contradiction creates emotional tension, leaving her trapped between hope and doubt. For women, this mistake is especially painful because attention mimics intimacy. It arrives at the right time, it sounds personal, it feels intentional, but it lacks the depth of real connection. A man who only gives attention without responsibility is not offering love. He is feeding his shadow. Jung described the shadow as the hidden, unacknowledged part of the self. In this case, the man is projecting his unmet needs onto the woman, and she is left to carry emotions that do not belong to her. This is why women must learn to separate attention from connection. Attention can be flattering, but it is temporary. It can lift the mood for a moment, but it does not build trust, it does not create safety, and it does not offer a future. Connection, on the other hand, is steady. It comes with honesty, respect, and clarity. When a man avoids responsibility, when he refuses to anchor his actions in truth, what he gives is not connection, it is distraction. And that distraction can waste a woman's time, her energy, and even her self-worth. The danger becomes greater when this pattern repeats. A short message becomes a habit. A smile turns into expectation. A friendly interaction grows into emotional dependency. Without noticing, the woman invests feelings into something that has no foundation. She starts to imagine meaning where there is none. And when reality finally breaks through, the disappointment is sharp because hope was built on emptiness. Jung warned that projection often disguises itself as love. The woman may project her longing for genuine connection into his gestures, while he projects his loneliness into her reactions. Both are deceived. He tells himself he has done nothing wrong, and she tells herself that attention must mean something more. But neither of these beliefs are true. They are shadows acting in place of truth. For the woman, the lesson is simple but powerful. Never confuse being noticed with being valued. Attention may feel exciting, but it is not a sign of depth. True connection is proven through action, consistency, and honesty. If his attention is not supported by responsibility, then it is not love, it is not care, and it is not respect. It is only a man feeding what he lacks inside himself. Women must ask, am I responding to his attention or to a real bond he is willing to sustain? The answer to that question protects the heart. Because once you see clearly, you will no longer allow yourself to be trapped in illusions created by someone else's emptiness. If this message resonates with you, explore deeper through the Jung Method. The link is pinned in the first comment. Your journey of awareness begins there. Crossing invisible boundaries. Not all boundaries are written down or spoken out loud. Some are silent, invisible, and unspoken, yet they hold immense power. Married men often convince themselves that if they do not cross a physical line, they are safe. They believe that as long as there is no affair, no obvious betrayal, everything remains under control. But this is where the third mistake emerges, crossing invisible boundaries that carry as much weight as the visible ones. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious is always shaping behavior, especially in the space between words and actions. A married man may not touch, but he allows conversations to go too far. He may not declare feelings, but he lets silence hang heavy with unspoken meaning. He may not commit an outward act of betrayal, but he creates situations where intimacy builds beneath the surface. And for the woman involved, these invisible boundaries can be even more dangerous, because they are harder to name, harder to resist, and harder to escape. Invisible boundaries are crossed in subtle ways. A conversation that moves from light to deeply personal, a late-night message that feels different from daytime talk, a lingering look that says more than the words spoken. Each of these moments seems small in isolation, but together they create an emotional closeness that blurs the line between what is innocent and what is intimate. The woman begins to feel something forming, even if nothing has been spoken directly, and this is where confusion starts. For women, this mistake is painful because it often comes wrapped in denial. The man may insist, "I haven't done anything wrong. We're just friends." But his behavior tells another story. The way he shares secrets, the way he seeks comfort, the way he leans emotionally. These are all steps across a boundary he pretends not to see. And the woman is left with a deep sense of contradiction. She feels the intimacy but is told it doesn't exist. This gaslighting effect can erode her confidence and make her question her own perception. Jung would call this the dance of the shadow. The man's unconscious desires for validation, escape, or forbidden thrill are projected into the woman. She becomes the vessel for what he avoids in himself. Meanwhile, she projects hope, meaning, or possibility into his actions. Both fall into illusion, but the woman pays the heavier price. Because once those invisible lines are crossed, her emotions are engaged, and emotions, once awakened, cannot easily be dismissed. The true danger of invisible boundaries is that they create intimacy without clarity. The woman feels drawn in but does not know where she stands. There is no commitment, no promise, yet the bond feels real. And because it is hidden, it often grows in silence, away from the light of honesty. By the time she realizes how deep it has gone, the entanglement is already strong. For women, the key is awareness. Pay attention not just to what he says, but to how his actions feel. Does he share things with you that belong in his marriage? Does he seek comfort from you that he should resolve within his own life? Does he create a space with you that feels charged, secret, or special? These are signs that invisible boundaries are being crossed. And once they are crossed, they are not easily repaired. Carl Jung warned that what we refuse to face directly will always return in distorted form. A married man who avoids confronting his own emptiness will unconsciously cross boundaries to fill it. But the woman who sees clearly can protect herself. She can recognize that his actions are not about her worth, but about his shadow. And by stepping back, she frees herself from carrying the weight of his denial. The lesson is simple but powerful. Respect is not measured only by what a man avoids physically, but by what he refuses to play with emotionally. A man who truly honors his marriage will guard not only his body, but also his words, his time, and his energy. If he crosses invisible boundaries even without admitting it, he has already betrayed trust. For women, the power lies in refusing to be part of that illusion. Do not let hidden lines be blurred into confusion. When you recognize that boundaries are being crossed, remember that clarity is protection, because once you name what is happening, you take back control of your heart. Underestimating the shadow. Every man carries a side of himself that he does not fully see. Carl Jung called this hidden part of the personality the shadow. It is made up of all the desires, fears, weaknesses, and impulses that a person tries to deny or hide. For married men, the shadow often becomes strongest in situations with other women, and the mistake they make is underestimating it, pretending it does not exist, or believing they are too smart to be controlled by it. A man might say, "I would never cross the line," and he believes it. He thinks his loyalty, intelligence, or discipline is enough to protect him. But when he ignores his shadow, he becomes blind to its influence. The shadow does not ask permission. It appears in sudden moments of attraction, in curiosity, in envy, or in the hunger for validation. And because it is denied, It often acts in secret ways, in small gestures, in emotional leaks, in words spoken without thought. For women, this mistake is critical to recognize. When a married man underestimates his shadow, she becomes the stage where his unconscious plays out. He may project desires onto her that he refuses to admit to himself. He may place responsibility on her for feelings he does not want to own. Without realizing it, she becomes part of a conflict that began inside him long before she appeared. This is dangerous because it creates confusion. The woman may feel chemistry, energy, or a deep pull that seems real. But often it is not her alone he sees. It is his shadow reflected in her. Jung explained that what we do not accept in ourselves we place onto others. So when a married man avoids his shadow, the woman becomes the mirror for it. She carries his denied energy while he convinces himself that nothing is happening. The more a man denies his shadow, the stronger it becomes. This is why intelligent men often fall hardest. They rely on their reason, their reputation, their logic. They believe that control is the same as self-awareness, but suppression is not healing. What is denied only gathers more power in the dark. Eventually it leaks out, in the way he looks at a woman, the way he speaks to her, the way he seeks her presence even when he claims it means nothing. For the woman, the pain comes from being caught between appearance and reality. On the surface, he is faithful, rational, and safe. But beneath the surface, his shadow is reaching for something he does not admit. She feels it even when he denies it. And this mismatch makes her doubt herself. She wonders if she is imagining things, if the attraction is only in her head. But the truth is clear. What she feels is the pull of his shadow, not just his conscious self. Jung warned that no one can escape their shadow. It must be faced. A man who underestimates it will always project it. And a woman who accepts those projections without awareness risks losing her clarity and self-worth. She might begin to believe that his shadow desires are proof of love, when in reality they are only proof of what he refuses to confront. The lesson is powerful. Do not confuse a man's shadow with his soul. The shadow is hungry, restless, and impulsive. It seeks satisfaction, not respect. It wants release, not responsibility. A man who underestimates it will let it guide his behavior in ways that harm both himself and the woman involved. For women, awareness is protection. When you sense that a married man is pulled by emotions he denies, remind yourself, this is not about you. It is about the parts of himself he has not faced. His shadow is not your responsibility. You are not his mirror, his cure, or his escape. You are your own person, and you have the right to step away from the role his unconscious tries to give you. Carl Jung believed that true strength comes from integrating the shadow, not ignoring it. Until a man does this work, his interactions will be filled with contradictions. He will say one thing but feel another. He will promise control while showing weakness. And the woman will always be left with the weight of his denial. Never forget, underestimating the shadow is not just his mistake. If you allow yourself to believe his denial, it can become your mistake too. The moment you recognize the presence of his shadow, you gain the freedom to protect yourself from its influence. Awareness is the light that dissolves illusion, trying to control instead of respect. One of the most damaging mistakes a married man can make with a woman is trying to control her instead of respecting her. At first, control may appear harmless. It can look like endless advice, constant opinions, or helpful suggestions presented as care. He may believe that his input shows concern, but to the woman, this behavior feels heavy. It presses down on her freedom, makes her smaller, and begins to erode trust. What he calls protection, she experiences as suffocation. Carl Jung explained that every relationship reflects the hidden balance of energies inside both people. When a man feels the need to control, it does not mean he is strong. It means he is afraid. He fears losing influence, fears being unseen, fears facing the parts of himself that remain unresolved. Instead of confronting those fears, he projects them outward. He tries to shape the woman so that she fits into the image that makes him feel safe. But safety built on control is fragile because it denies her individuality. Respect, in contrast, creates space. Respect allows a woman to be fully herself. It means seeing her as separate, equal, and whole. Jung believed that awareness is the foundation of respect. A man who respects a woman does not treat her as an extension of his needs, but as a complete person with her own voice. Without this awareness, she becomes a reflection of his insecurity rather than a partner in truth. For women, The difference between respect and control is not always easy to name, but it is easy to feel. Control feels heavy and limiting. It appears in subtle criticism, constant questioning, or small attempts to influence every choice. Respect feels lighter. It appears in listening, valuing opinions, and allowing freedom. Control makes you doubt yourself. Respect strengthens your confidence. Control shrinks you, while respect allows you to expand. The danger is that control often wears a mask. A man may present it as protection. He may say, "I only want what's best for you," when in reality he is steering her to ease his own discomfort. Jung warned that when control replaces respect, relationships turn into performances of shadow. What looks like care is often insecurity acting in disguise. Women often sense this imbalance before they can define it. They notice they feel smaller in his presence, less certain of their own instincts, or strangely dependent on his approval. Over time, this weakens their trust in themselves. Instead of standing firmly in their truth, they begin to adapt to his influence. But authentic connection never requires shrinking. Real love never demands silence. Trying to control is also a way for a man to deny his own struggles. By focusing on her, he avoids looking at himself. He avoids admitting that life feels out of control in other areas. Jung explained that projection blinds both sides. The man never sees his weakness, and the woman ends up carrying it. She begins to feel responsible for problems that were never hers. Respect, on the other hand, builds trust. A man who respects a woman does not fear her independence. He does not feel threatened by her strength. He celebrates her individuality because he has learned to face his own. This type of foundation allows relationships to grow rather than collapse. Without respect, there can be no true intimacy, because intimacy requires freedom. For women, the question is simple. Does this man make me stronger or smaller? If his presence limits your freedom, it is not love. Love expands. Respect liberates. Control suffocates. A married man who believes that control equals care is not protecting you. He is protecting his own insecurity. Carl Jung believed that true relationships exist only when two people meet as equals. When one dominates, it is not partnership but shadow. A man who replaces respect with control shows not strength but weakness dressed as authority. For women, the greatest protection is seeing this clearly and refusing to live in the illusion. The truth is simple. Respect builds, while control destroys. Respect creates freedom while control binds it. No woman should accept control when she deserves respect. Once you recognize this, you will no longer mistake authority for love or pressure for care. Respect is the foundation of trust, and trust is the only ground where love can grow. Revealing weakness at the wrong time. Every human being carries weakness. It is not shameful to feel fragile, to doubt, or to need comfort. But the mistake many married men make is not that they show weakness. It is that they reveal it at the wrong time and in the wrong way. To a woman, timing matters. How he shares himself shapes whether it builds trust or destroys it. When a man chooses the wrong moment, his weakness does not create closeness. Instead, it creates burden, discomfort, and even loss of respect. Carl Jung explained that what is unconscious often rises in unexpected ways. A married man who feels unseen at home may unconsciously use another woman as his outlet. He might share complaints about his marriage, about his work, or about hidden fears. He imagines this makes him honest, but to the woman it feels misplaced. She becomes the container for his frustrations, a role she never asked for. Instead of trust, she feels used. Weakness revealed without boundaries turns into emotional dumping. The man hands over his unresolved issues, hoping the woman will hold them. But this is not real intimacy. Intimacy is built on mutual choice and safety. When weakness is thrown carelessly, it places the entire weight of his shadow onto her. Jung described this as projection, unloading inner struggles onto another person instead of facing them within. For women, this projection is exhausting, because it blurs the line between genuine sharing and manipulation. The problem grows sharper when weakness appears in moments that demand strength. If a man seeks a woman's attention but then collapses emotionally, she feels confusion. He wanted to seem attractive, but now he seems dependent. He wanted to appear in control, but now he is asking her to manage his storms. This inconsistency shakes trust. A woman wonders, if he cannot hold himself, how could he hold the bond between us? There is nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Jung emphasized that accepting the shadow, including fear and fragility, is part of growth. But vulnerability must be conscious. It must come from awareness, not desperation. A man who reveals weakness wisely invites closeness. A man who reveals weakness at the wrong time creates imbalance. He pulls the woman into his inner chaos and calls it intimacy. But intimacy without choice is pressure. For women, recognizing this mistake is important. If his words feel like weight rather than trust, it is not real sharing. If his openness feels sudden, heavy, or manipulative, then it is not vulnerability. It is avoidance. He is avoiding his responsibility to face himself, and instead leaning on her as a substitute. This does not build connection. It builds dependency, and dependency without balance always drains. The unconscious often pushes men into this pattern. They do not plan to reveal too much, but in search of comfort, they cross lines. The woman notices that instead of feeling closer, she feels smaller, trapped in the role of savior. Jung warned that such dynamics are illusions. What seems like honesty may actually be shadow at work. The man feels lighter, but the woman feels heavier. True intimacy should never leave one person carrying the entire load. The lesson for women is simple. Vulnerability should lift both, not burden one. A man who respects himself and respects you will reveal his weakness carefully with awareness. He will not pour out every insecurity in search of rescue. He will not hand over unresolved pain and call it love. Instead, he will share openly, but without demanding that you fix him. That kind of openness builds trust, because it honors your freedom. Jung believed that maturity comes when a person integrates weakness into strength. Until a man does this, his weakness will appear at the wrong time and in the wrong place. He will look for shortcuts for someone else to carry what he avoids. But women must remember, his weakness is not your responsibility. If he reveals it without respect, step back. Protect your space. Honor your energy. Real intimacy is a choice. It is not forced through pressure or sudden confessions. It is created when both choose to share and to carry weight together. If a married man reveals weakness at the wrong time, what he shows is not love but imbalance. And imbalance is the opposite of trust. The truth is clear. Weakness revealed with awareness creates connection. Weakness revealed without care destroys it. And once you see this difference, you will never mistake pressure for closeness again. Mixing desire with real need. Every relationship carries moments of attraction, curiosity, and emotional pull. For married men, these moments can be especially dangerous because they often confuse two very different forces: desire and real need. Desire is urgent, hot, and temporary. It excites the senses but fades quickly. Real need, on the other hand, comes from a deeper place. It represents what the heart and soul truly require for balance and fulfillment. The seventh mistake appears when a man mixes these two forces, treating passing impulses as if they were evidence of lasting truth. Carl Jung explained that much of what we call love is projection. A man who feels emptiness inside may project that hunger onto a woman and call it connection. In reality, what he feels is not genuine need but shadow-driven desire. He wants to escape discomfort within himself, and she becomes the mirror for what he avoids. The woman, however, often experiences this attention as meaningful. His energy feels intense, almost magnetic, and she may believe it reflects depth. Yet when the projection fades, his interest weakens and she is left questioning her own worth. Desire is powerful. It creates sparks, adrenaline, and urgency. A married man carried by desire may speak with passion, look with intensity, or act as if she is essential to him. But desire is not reliable. It rises quickly and collapses just as fast. Jung would say that unexamined desire belongs to the unconscious, not the conscious self. It pushes for satisfaction without thought for consequences. Need is different. Real need is steady. It is grounded in awareness and responsibility. A man who truly needs connection will not disappear when the excitement fades. He will show consistency, honesty, and presence. He will not use a woman to escape his emptiness, but will seek growth with her. Desire burns bright and then vanishes. Need builds slowly and sustains. For women, the danger comes from mistaking desire for commitment. Desire feels like intimacy. It mimics love through intensity. A man's attention may feel overwhelming and she may interpret it as proof of importance. But if his attention is only fueled by desire, it will leave her drained. She may ask herself, why did he seem so invested one day and distant the next? The answer is simple. What she felt was desire, not real need. This confusion also damages respect. A man who allows desire to masquerade as need shows a lack of awareness. He is guided by impulse, not integrity. The woman senses instability. One moment he seems devoted, The next, he seems distracted. This inconsistency creates emotional chaos. She feels caught between passion and doubt, warmth and coldness. Over time, her trust in her own intuition begins to erode. Jung warned that what is not integrated becomes projected. When a man avoids facing his own needs, he projects them onto others. He sees the woman as the answer to a question he has not even asked himself. She becomes a stage for his unconscious battle, and when the play ends, she carries the disappointment. This is why awareness matters. Women who see the difference between desire and need protect themselves from illusions. The test is simple. Look for consistency. Desire alone is inconsistent, restless, and demanding. Real need shows up in steady action. It is not afraid of responsibility. It does not vanish after satisfaction. Instead, it deepens with time. When a man confuses the two, his words may sound deep, but his actions betray emptiness. For women, the lesson is powerful. Do not confuse intensity with truth. Passion may light the fire, but only real need keeps it burning. If a married man treats his desire as if it were genuine need, he will draw you into his shadow. You will feel excitement in the moment, but emptiness afterward. Awareness gives you the strength to step back, to separate projection from reality, and to honor your own worth. Carl Jung believed that integrating the shadow means bringing clarity to hidden desires. Until a man learns this, his relationships will be filled with illusions. He will chase what excites him and call it destiny, while avoiding the real work of the soul. But the woman who recognizes this pattern does not fall for it. She sees that desire is fire without roots, while real need is the ground where true love can grow. The truth is clear. Desire alone consumes, but need sustains. Desire may impress for a moment, but real need builds respect, trust, and connection. When you know the difference, you protect your heart from mistaking emptiness for intimacy. Forgetting the Jungian mirror. Carl Jung taught that every relationship is in some way a mirror. What we notice in others often reveals what is hidden within ourselves. Attraction, admiration, irritation, or rejection are not only about the other person, they are reflections of our own psyche. The eighth mistake a married man makes with women is forgetting this mirror. He acts as though his feelings are created entirely by her, when in reality they often come from within him. For women, understanding this is essential, because when he forgets the mirror, his words and actions become misleading, and she risks believing illusions instead of truth. When a man forgets the mirror, he places too much power in her hands. If he feels desire, he believes she is the cause. If he feels anger, he blames her completely, yet she may only be the surface where his unconscious is being reflected. Jung explained that the qualities we reject in ourselves inevitably appear through others. When a man ignores the mirror, he avoids his shadow. The woman becomes the stage for his inner struggle, playing a role that was never hers to carry. This projection distorts reality. His passion may seem magnetic, almost irresistible. To her, it may feel like destiny or deep connection. Yet what she experiences is not genuine intimacy, but a projection of his unmet needs and hidden fears. He is not really seeing her. He is seeing himself reflected back through her presence. Forgetting the mirror causes him to confuse private impulses with external truth, leaving her trapped in emotions that do not belong to her. Projection is convincing, and that makes it dangerous. A man caught in projection often behaves with passion. He may flatter, chase, or confess emotions that sound profound. To the woman, such behavior feels flattering, powerful, even romantic. But if it is rooted in projection rather than awareness, it collapses once reality intrudes. She feels betrayed, not because he lied, but because he never truly saw her. He only saw his own reflection shining through her image. For women, remembering the mirror is protection. Ask yourself, does his attention reflect who I truly am, or does it reveal more about him? If his words feel exaggerated, idealized, or disconnected from your authentic self, you may be inside his projection. Jung warned that until a man faces his shadow, his relationships will remain clouded by illusions. What appears to be love may only be him chasing the missing pieces of his own soul. Forgetting the mirror also creates imbalance. When he projects, she becomes responsible for feelings that are not hers. His admiration, guilt, or longing rest on her shoulders. Over time, this steals her clarity. She may begin to doubt herself, asking, is this real? Am I imagining it? The truth is that she is simply standing before his unconscious reflection. She is not the cause, only the surface where his shadow appears. Jung believed that authentic love can only exist when projection is recognized. Two people can meet honestly only when each reclaims what belongs to themselves. A man who forgets the mirror cannot do this. He sees fragments of himself and names them love, attraction, or fate. For the woman, this is dangerous because it tempts her to confuse his illusions with her worth. Women who remember the mirror protect themselves. Instead of being swept away by his passion, they pause and ask, "Is this about me or about him?" That single question breaks the illusion. It creates space to see his behavior clearly, not as proof of her value, but as evidence of his unresolved shadow. The mirror reveals him, not her, and remembering this allows her to stay free. The Jungian mirror also explains why some men repeat the same patterns endlessly. If he refuses to face his shadow, he will project it again and again. Each new attraction feels unique to him, but the cycle never changes. The woman who remembers the mirror can see the repetition and step out of it. She does not carry his projections or confuse them with her truth. Awareness becomes her strength, preserving her dignity and energy. The lesson is clear. Never mistake the reflection for reality. If his attention feels too sudden, too heavy, or too idealized, it is likely his shadow speaking, not his conscious self. Real connection grows slowly, built on responsibility and awareness. Projection burns brightly but fades quickly, leaving emptiness behind. Women who remember the mirror protect their hearts by refusing to mistake illusion for intimacy. The truth is simple. Forgetting the Jungian mirror brings confusion and imbalance. Remembering it creates clarity and freedom. Once you see the difference, you will never again mistake his shadow for your value. Awareness gives you strength because you no longer carry what belongs to him. You stand firmly in your truth, and no projection can take that away.